remember the first time I did my eyebrows, for your information, I used to have a unibrow. People would make fun of me at school because they were like, yo, like, why you got a whole mustache as an eyebrow? Like, so I remember begging my mom to get my eyebrows waxed because I'm like, bro, they bullied me at school. Like, help me out here. And she's like, no, you look so beautiful. I mean, you're so beautiful. You're too young. I'm like, bro, I don't even got a forehead. Like, my eyebrow and my edge connect. But she still didn't get it. So on Sunday after church, I was like, Mommy, can I go to my friend's house? And she was like, okay, you can. When I got there, we got to working. And she got to tweezing. I was like, yes, baby, I'm finna look good. I'm gonna get all the boys. But little did I know, this sis had no idea what she was doing. I mean, of course, she was like 13. But like, still, instead of having a unibrow, I had a uni-how. Because like, how did I still have a unibrow, but no more eyebrows? I made my eyebrows look so skinny. They looked anorexic. No, they look like a whiff of an eyebrow that used to be there. Then my mom cries like it's her eyebrow.
My creepy neighbor story time. So I grew up in a small town where everyone almost knew each other. And in every neighborhood, there is always this creepy neighbor who watches the whole neighborhood through his living room window. He's always mysterious too. He never has a wife or kids. It's just him in a big old creepy house, and there's always creepy stories being told of him. Well, let me tell you about my creepy neighbor. His name was Mr. Angleton, and no one knew anything about him, only that his name is Mr. Angleton and he was creepy. First, let me tell you some of the rumors that were being told of him. Someone said he kidnaps little children and that he steals stray cats and eats them. The rumor came about because our neighborhood has a lot of missing cat posters around the neighborhood, and everyone blames Mr. Angleton. And if any of the kids we grew up with didn't come around to play anymore, we all just assumed it was because Mr. Angleton kidnapped them. I didn't know if any of these rumors were true, but I wasn't trying to find out either. So one night, me and my friends were all at the playground bored, trying to find something fun to do. At this time, we were all around the age 11 or 12. We had nothing better to do with our lives but hang around the neighborhood park. There wasn't a lot of things we could do in our neighborhood. So one of our friends named Jake came up with a great idea to play truth or dare. I was a very scary person, so I would always choose truth, but my best friend Carrie was a risk taker. She would always choose dare, and she did, and Jake dared her to sneak in Mr. Angleton's backyard and take an apple off his tree and come back. As soon as he mentioned Mr. Angleton's house, I knew this was a bad idea, so I was like, no, that's too dangerous. And before I could finish, Carrie said, okay. I looked at her in unbelief, like, is she serious? I told her, you don't have to prove yourself to anyone. And she said, I know. And she got up off the swing and said, I want to. And all I'm thinking about are all those rumors I've heard. Stay tuned. It gets real. So we all leave the park and look into the direction of Mr. Angleton's house. And of course he's home. His car was parked in the driveway. So I turned to Carrie and said, I don't know about this. It feels like a bad idea. And Carrie slapped me on the shoulder and said, don't worry, I'll bring you an apple back too. I'm like, what? I don't care about an apple. I care about you. So there was no talking her out of this. All I can do is pray. Please, God, don't let my best friend get murdered. Please, God, don't let my best friend get murdered. So Carrie began to walk across the street toward his house. We were all watching from afar. She began to sneak on the side of his house, and then she opens the gate to go in the backyard. I literally couldn't watch. The boys that I was with was laughing like, bro, I can't believe she is really doing this. So we began to wait, and the sun is setting, and it's taking longer than it should be. So we all start to worry. Jake said, do you think something happened to her? I was terrified. All I was thinking was the worst. So I was like, we should go and get her. And the guys were like, I'm not going in that man's backyard. See you later. And they all left to go home. But I stayed watching from across the street. So this is part 4. I finally mustered up the courage to go look for her. Remember, I'm probably the scariest girl in the world, but Carrie was my only true friend. I had to save her. So I started towards his house, and as I approached the gate of his backyard, I hear voices talking. So I go inside the gate and start walking towards the back, and lo and behold, it was Carrie and Mr. Angleton, laughing and talking. She was petting a cat and eating an apple. I called her name. She looked at me and said, "Yara, come meet Mr. Angleton. He has a kitty." I was so confused, like, why is she talking to Mr. Creepy? Then Mr. Angleton handed us a bag of apples and said, "Give these to your friends." So I grabbed Carrie and said, "It's getting late." And she was like, "Okay, bye, Mr. Angleton." As we were walking home, Carrie couldn't stop talking about how nice and cool Mr. Angleton was.
When I was having a bad hair day the other day, you guys were all like, just go into the store. Just go into the store with bad hair. Nobody's going to say anything. What are they going to say? Wrong! There was a Karen in the store who had the audacity, and she didn't even say it to my face. Here's what happened. I didn't go into the store exactly like I had my hair in this video. I fixed it a little bit, but it still looked a mess, and all I was doing was going into Office Depot to use their manual printers because our government thinks we're still in the 1800s and own printers, and so I went in to print some stuff, spoke with no one, I got my little copies, and I was walking out the door, and I'm forced to walk towards the registers to get out, and there's a Karen standing there with her man next to her, like checking out at the register, and she makes eye contact with me. She's staring right at me, and I was like, that's weird. And then as we break eye contact, because I'm turning to walk out the door, I hear her say, "That girl's hair looks awful." And I was just like, who? Ma'am, how embarrassing for you. She was an adult woman, like mid-40s looking Karen type, and I was just like, how embarrassing that you're a grown woman and you do not know how to behave in public yet. Like, who talks like that? Also, it was Office Depot, okay? We weren't at church or a 5-star restaurant or a Target. I was minding my own business, just being my own little person, and she didn't even wait for me to get out of the store? Who does that? And it was the second mean comment that I'd received from a stranger in under 24 hours, because the day before that, I was out walking my dog in my comfy, and if you don't know what a comfy is, it's like a Snuggie, it's like a giant blanket that you wear, and a man told me that I looked like a cow, and I just wanted to be like, sir, that is not only factually incorrect, but offensive to cows. My Snuggie is blue, and it's fleece-lined. If anything, I look like a sheep, and not even a real sheep. A fictional sheep. And you know why they talk like that? It's because they're grumpy. They're walking around in their cold, uncomfy, stiff clothes, and then they see me all comfortable with messy hair, and they think, wow, I wish I could listen to my body's needs and dress accordingly each day depending on how I was feeling, but I am insecure, so I dress every day like I'm going to brunch with the queen.
The time I almost got kidnapped. I'm not even being dramatic. This was the most scariest situation I have ever been in. So when I was 10 years old, me and my mother was at the mall shopping for my baby sister. My mom was 8 months pregnant with my sister at the time, and we wanted to get her clothes before her birth. So my mom was totally not paying attention to me. So for some reason, I left out of the store. I don't know what I was thinking. So I'm wandering around the mall when this man wearing a mechanic jumpsuit approached me and asked where my mom was. And I looked around and pointed to the store that she was in. And he asked me, did I want to get an ice cream? And I was like, yes. Like, what kid wouldn't want an ice cream? So he grabbed my hand, and I remember his hands being really warm. And something about his hand made me uncomfortable. I don't know, maybe it was my intuition. So I yanked my hand from him and ran back to the store where my mom was. Till this day, I still get nightmares.